It is a brand new episode of Flyers Daily, brought to you by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Brian Smith in for Jason Myrtetus tonight, along with Bill Meltzer. As we hit another Monday here, Jason is getting a maintenance day today as his cancer treatments continue and needed a little bit extra rest. So we'll jump in for him here today and keep doing this as long as we need to here. Get him through this. So it's it's going to be hit or miss, I think, here over the next little bit. But Bill's here to talk about the week that was. Bill, how are things?
Well, it's certainly not boring this week.
No.
Lots of activity going on.
No, not at all. It has been an interesting last few days in Flyerville. And, of course, we didn't get a chance really because of the timing of it and because of some other things to discuss the big trade last week. So let's get right to it. Of course, everybody is well acquainted with it by now. Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee going to Calgary. Andrei Kuzmenko, Jacob Pelletier coming back to Philadelphia, along with a second-round pick this year and a seventh-round pick later. I guess to start, let's just look at the merits of what the Flyers were looking to do with this deal, and that is cap flexibility, I think, is what Danny Briere has emphasized as number one. But they also get a couple of guys that they can take a look at and see if they're a good fit or a reclamation, if you will, and adding yet another draft pick to the stable for this coming draft.
Yeah, Flyers are loaded with first and second round picks this year, which I don't know if the Flyers will ultimately end up using all of those, but it gives you a ton of flexibility where you could maybe package some of these assets in a trade or potentially use them to move up, in a round, or maybe you spread out the assets over this draft, next draft. It gives you a whole lot of options for
I think a lot of people don't realize you can only have so many people around, right? I mean, you can have 12 draft picks in a draft, but if you use them all and all 12 of those guys show up to your rookie camp, you've got a lot of people at your rookie camp.
No, for sure. There's only so many contract slots and all that. But it gives them a lot of options moving forward. In the real short term, I think the trade really has to be viewed in the bigger context, because I think the jury's going to be out until you see what moves follow, whether it's the rest of the season or whether it's the off season. There is the piece with the two players who are coming in. I do think Pelletier is a nice acquisition. Smaller guy. He's a winger. Flyers do have some smaller wingers, but he's one of those little guys who plays a lot bigger than you would think that he might. He comes away with a lot of pucks. Plays a very high octane kind of a game. Very, very good pass guy. Has a real competitive streak about him. I think fans will like him. I'm not sure about Kuzmenko. I don't think anybody's sure about Kuzmenko, just because is he the guy who scored 39 goals his first year in Vancouver? Is he the guy who was in Rick Tocchet's doghouse? Is he the guy who had a little resurgence in Calgary last year, or is he the guy who struggled this year up until the trade? We're not gonna know till we see him. But there's no obligation. You take a look at him. If it works out, maybe you extend him. If not, the obligation ends at the end of the season. With Joel, he signed for 3 more years at a $5 million cap hit, and Morgan, he's a restricted free agent this summer, but he's a year away from unrestricted free agency.
Correct.
So you really have to view in terms of what is your long-term flexibility. Just in the very short term, it's only an $800,000 cap savings, but over the longer term, it definitely frees up money to be able to make moves that the Flyers want and need to make. So we'll see what happens in the months to come, which I think will be a fair indication of what you're actually getting back on the other side of this deal.
The Flyers have been talking for a while here about how they don't have the money or the cap space. Really, they have all the money in the world, but they don't have the cap space to sign free agents until after 2026, and that was fitting with the timeline of what everything was going on. But then Matvei Michkov shows up 2 years early, really, from what they expected. And now that he is here, you have announcements that the salary cap is going to take a drastic jump here over the next 3 years. So all of a sudden, that timeline that you were kind of they're still stuck into a timeline because it takes time to build the team. You can't just go out and get everybody in the course of a few months. But the part of the timeline that some contracts needed to expire, some dead money needed to be freed up. That might be a little bit less of a concern now with those cap increases. Plus now, moving out, $5 million a year for the next 3 years for Farabee, and like you said, they were going to have to reserve some money for Morgan Frost. So, perhaps that part of things where they're going to be able to go out and get some of the players they want, that might move up a little bit too, just like Matt Michkov moved up.
For sure, and if you could move a little bit more money around. I think what happened last year with the Blues in Edmonton, right? All of a sudden, it's not so tabooed to send out an offer sheet anymore. It's not like it was with Shea Weber, where it's just shaking the whole league that you're giving out offer sheets. All of a sudden, that's becoming, I think, a more and more viable option. But you have to be able to have enough flexibility where you're making an offer that the other team conceivably matching. You have to have the assets potentially give up too. So the Flyers are kind of stockpiling that and making that a more viable option if they go that route.
Sure.
So, I'm really interested to see really the rest of the season heading into the off season as to where the Flyers address their need for a center in particular, but just sometimes in general, how you might move some other pieces around. I think there are ways of doing it that whether it's via trades, whether it's via again potentially an offer sheet to somebody, whether you're making a hockey trade, because the Flyers do have some depth on wing, so really there are ways the Flyers could go about this. Whether you're solving, some other team might need a piece, they might have something that you need. There's a lot of ways that Briere can go about this, and this is something that ultimately opens those possibilities. On the personal level, I Morgan and Joel are impossible not to like. They're great guys. They're good hockey players, but in terms of meeting the long-term needs of the team, the Flyers are setting themselves up potentially to do that.
I think it says a ton about those two guys that the vast majority of the folks, the vast majority of people looking at this trade and saying, it's too bad that so-and-so is gone, has had to do with the two of them basically off the ice. It's had to do with the two of them as people. Certainly they're talented hockey players, and for their sake, I certainly hope that they both kind of take off here with a change of scenery, as players often do. But that was the overwhelming sentiment, I think, around the fan base and really the organization, is that this is a part of the business, and everybody understands it. But at the same time, it's really too bad that those guys are headed out, because I don't think you could find an enemy for either of them anywhere.
For sure. And ultimately, if they take the next step, right? Like Joel's case last year, he had 40 points in the first 50 games, and almost all of them were even strength points. It felt like Joel was hitting that next level, and then had kind of a rough period after the All-Star break, and for whatever reason, never quite got going this year. With Frost, he's had this strange tendency to get off to really slow starts, and he'll pick it up over the latter half to 2/3 of a season, but he's kind of behind the eight ball, go a third to halfway into a season. Because if you look at what he did in the latter half to 2/3, he'd be either at or near the top of the team in points and or assists, but his overall numbers would be just okay because of the slow starts. but but 2/3 of a season, half of a season, you can't do that every year. You have to put it together for a whole year. Same thing with Joel. Hopefully for both of those guys, they can do that moving forward. Whether it would have happened here or not is kind of a moot point now. But obviously hope for the best for both guys on the ice, and just see what the organization can do to build the next pieces.
And as you said, I think you definitely have to look at this deal as the first step towards something else. It was definitely not, let's move out Morgan and Joel for these guys and okay, now we're a better team. This is the first step toward other stuff down the road. So everybody should take it with that viewpoint in mind, and let's see what else comes down the pike here over the next few months. Hopefully sometime over the next few months comes a goal, as the Flyers are unfortunately in a spot right now that they've never been in before, as they've just had 3 consecutive shutouts against, which in terms of 3 games, it's never happened to the Flyers before. This is not
in the regular season.
Not in the regular season, as you pointed out. Yes, it did happen in the playoffs.
That horrific series against Ottawa in 2002.
It's kind of like how the Blackhawks haven't won in Philadelphia in 25 years. Wait a minute.
That was wild how that happened. That series, just for a second there. Like if you take away that Fedotenko goal in overtime in game 1, Flyers might have gone the entire series without a goal. I've never seen that. Hope they never see that again. Yeah. And that was a talented team. They just went dry at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, that in a way, given how shorthanded the Flyers are right now, and other things going on, to me that was a more unpleasant and worse surprise. But in terms of the current group, I thought in segments of the game in Colorado, the first period in particular, and portions of the third, the process wasn't bad. Didn't like the second period, not just 2 goals, but that was pretty much all Avalanche. But it felt like they weren't too far off. They just are just in a stretch where they cannot get a goal. I think for everybody's emotional, psychological well-being, if they get a goal early next game here in Utah, I think everybody relax a little bit, whether you lose.
Right.
But you can see it's in everybody's head right now, and it's hard not to be.
Yeah, there definitely were a lot of chances in the first period, especially that Colorado game, and they were able to come back in the third and get some chances too. And I really like to see that, the way they rebounded from that second period, which wasn't entirely bad. I thought right before the first goal, about 8 minutes in, it started to kind of become Colorado's game a little bit, and it certainly got worse from there. But again, we were talking after the game in Colorado itself. I mean, Sam Harrison comes out and makes 32 saves, I think it was. If he does a 32 save game, gives up 2 goals against Colorado, and the Flyers are scoring normally, it's a fantastic road game for the Flyers.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good chance to win. Yeah. I mean, if you want to take away a silver lining from that game against a very good team, Ursa gave him every chance to win, and that. He's really had a lot of quality starts over about the last month, so that's been huge. And Fedotov for the most part has given them a chance too. They just right now, and it's just so funny how it comes and it goes, Brian, because before the last 6-7 games, the Flyers had that stretch of 26 where they were 4th in the NHL in goals over that stretch, 3.31 over the previous 26 games. And now it just went completely dry. So, it
is a maddening sport sometimes. Yes. I feel like it happens to every team at some time or another. It's just a matter of, how quickly you can reverse it. It separates the good teams from the not so good sometimes. But, again, looking at that game as a whole, the Avalanche certainly are a potent team, and the Flyers, I thought, did a very good job of trying to play a game that more benefited them. And like you said, it was a bit of a patchwork lineup. They had to play 11 forward, 7D. Jacob Gaucher makes his NHL debut, and you've got the 7D goes down to 6 when Ristolainen leaves in the second. So I thought they were doing a pretty good job against that team given the circumstances that they were under there. But again, you don't have a very big margin, any margin for error if you can't put one in the net every now and then. So that's kind of the most pressing issue right now.
No, for sure. Some of the challenges going into that game. Denver's always a unique challenge just because of the altitude.
Right. I don't even like walking up the stairs in Denver. Much less playing a hockey game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you cannot get caught on long shifts. The Flyers did a pretty good job for that for a period and a half. Then they had a bad line change at one point. It didn't cost them because Urson stepped up there. But I really thought that they were kind of on the right track in that game. But we'll see. We'll see what it carries over in the next game. They need a day off, clearly.
Yeah. Well, my last my last contribution there was kind of rambling because I couldn't remember what I wanted to say, and I just did because you brought it up. The second periods, especially in these three, I'm wondering if you feel like the Flyers are having a little bit of trouble in the second periods with the long change. I think specifically, and it's something that every team deals with every game, and professionals, you get used to it. But for some reason, it feels like they're in a rut right now on the long change, because I feel like I know it happened today, yesterday in Colorado, and I feel like it's happened all three games that at least once in the second period they've gotten themselves stuck in a 2-minute, 3-minute shift sometimes because they just can't get off the ice because of that long change.
Failed clears or bad changes. They against the Islanders.
Or bad changes. That was the next thing. They've had bad changes in the second period that lead to rushes the other way.
Yeah, that cost them. The second goal the Islanders scored was a bad change.
Yeah,
you can't have a defenseman going off with the other team in control of the puck at their blue line. You're just asking for a counter rush, and as your guys jump on the guys who jump on the ice, that's where plus minus is very limited sometimes. The poor guys who just happen to step on the ice stepped on just as the Islanders scored, so they get a minus.
Yeah,
but they weren't the ones who caused the goal. So
that's one of the flaws in the NHL, and there's no way to fix it. But if you score a goal 2 seconds after a power play expired, that's a power play goal. That's because of the power play.
Yes,
but it does, so I guess it all shakes out in the end. But that's why sometimes you have to look at the game and not so much as the numbers sometimes. I guess I don't know. It's just it's a hockey. If you look at the major sports in this country and around the world, I mean, hockey is the most unpredictable, and that's why we've all spent so many years trying to wrangle it with analytics and stuff like that, trying to predict what's going to happen. But there's so few controlled situations like there are in baseball or football or basketball. I tell people that everything that they're doing system-wise is just designed to get the first shot after an entry, and then everything else is bad, just pure chance after that. So, it's a difficult thing to master sometimes.
No, for sure, and so much of what you look for, like on power plays. You look for deflections, but deflections are so part of what they make so hard for the goalie is you have no idea where the puck is going to go.
Right.
But it's the same thing. Sometimes you tip it and it might have gone in the net, but now you're deflecting it wide. It's just it's just the happenstance of the game. There's so many bounces of the puck, so many how many go in off of a defenseman's skate or something like that. It's just. It's really the random parts. Yeah. There's just the little bits you control. Not much.
Guy misses, fans on a shot, and it ends up right on somebody else's stick, and then it wasn't meant to do that. But the thing that always has kind of still bugged me about this whole thing is that for all the stats that have been generated over the last 5 years, 10 years, the different dives into measuring player effectiveness and all that. It's basically all based almost on scoring chances.
Yeah. And
scoring chances is still not an official NHL stat. It's one of the most ambiguous things, I think, that is tracked in the game because it's not an official NHL stat. There really is no definition of what is a scoring chance. So everybody's got their own definition. And if I sit there and try to come up with scoring chances with a game, I might come up with 20 and you might come up with 15 or 25. It's just that's for me. I don't know why that foundation hasn't been a little bit more well established. I mean, it's not, we talk to Torts after every game. Yeah, shots don't ever come up. It's scoring chances. What were chances for and chances against?
For sure. Yeah, and that's how whatever proprietary data, how they're tracking them.
Right.
And the thing too is it's not always just shot location, right? Obviously, it depends on who the shooter is, but also depends on is it a clear sighted shot? Is a screen moving across from the goalie's line of vision? Now all of a sudden, what looks like a routine shot becomes a dangerous one. Or the goalie's already square to it, and it could be coming from what you call a high danger kind of spot, but the goal there's nothing to shoot at. Nothing to shoot at the goalie's chest. It'll go as a scoring chance, but it really wasn't a great chance because the goalie was already there.
Yeah. Yep, no question about it. So Flyers certainly, again, are looking to snap that goal drought as quickly as possible because they are within, I think, one period of their all-time record, which is 199. So they're 180 and 15 seconds right now. So hopefully they get that out of the way and we don't have to worry about that anymore. They go to Utah tomorrow, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look this up. I haven't, but another new city for them to play in. This will be added to the number of cities, which last I looked, I thought was near maybe it's buildings I'm thinking of was in the 50s somewhere. Right. But there'll be a new building for them too. Just a little bit of a moment in Flyers history here as they make their first visit to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, no, I have not looked it up. When you were kind of glancing at, because sometimes you're playing games in neutral site buildings. And so the number isn't just a number of opponents because there were, I remember particularly in the early 90s, you would play a certain number of neutral site games a year. So I'd be interested to see the number of cities.
So Salt Lake was a minor league town for years. The Salt Lake Golden Eagles, 1969 to 1994. They had hockey out here, and then they had the Utah Grizzlies after that. Right. That was a AAA town, and then it became an ECHL town, and then Arizona comes here, and it's been a pretty big success, all told, as of right now. They certainly have some things that they want to enhance here. We haven't been to the building yet, of course, but there's some it's built for basketball, Delta Center, so there may be some line of sight issues, stuff like that. But they're going to host an Olympics here in 2034, and a lot of those facilities are obviously already in place from 2002. But I believe whatever they plan to do here for a rink, for a new building, for both the Jazz and for the Utah Hockey Club, is going to probably be a part of all that planning. So it's got to be an exciting time to be out here as a sports fan.
Yeah, for sure, and there's growth potential in that market there too. I think that people were excited to have an NHL team there, and I think that it's not like I'll use Atlanta as an example of a place that had hockey twice and it didn't work there twice, right? But I think it's a whole new thing for NHL hockey there, and I think there is potential to grow. There's young talent on that team. They had talent in Arizona. They just So I think they have a foundation of what has potential to be a pretty good team. And I've heard from some people that actually have visited. There's a lot of cool stuff to do around there. I'd love to see a game there at some point, truthfully.
Yeah. Well, one of the Flyers equipment managers, John Peters, is from here. So he is extremely excited to have everybody back and be able to kind of show everybody around here. So we're looking forward to being a part of that. I'm looking forward to the end of this week because Flyers have 2 home games left before the break. They're both inside the division. Washington Capitals are here on Thursday, and they've had a tremendous season. They're going to be a bear to deal with for sure, but Flyers will get them on home ice. And then, Saturday, I think, could be one of those memorable nights because night before the Super Bowl, I'm sure everybody's going to be in Super Bowl fever for Saturday night, and it's the Pittsburgh Penguins coming to town. So Flyers have a chance here to go out with a couple of big ones from home.
Yeah, that last game before the break, a lot of times those are kind of bizarre games, truthfully.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get feisty, sometimes they can be high scoring games, you can kind of see who's plugged in, right?
Yeah.
And who's already on vacation sometimes. It'll be fun to watch. And in terms of Washington, I certainly didn't expect Washington to be where they are so far this year. I think Carberry to me is the kind of the runaway Jack Adams.
Yeah, really.
I didn't expect this. So.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see what the Flyers can do here over these final 3 games before the break. Of course, we'll be covering it all week here on Flyers Daily. We're hoping Jason will be back with us for tomorrow's episode, and we'll get to the break here, and then we'll have some time to rest and recoup while we watch the Four Nations tournament. And I'm sure we'll. Hopefully you and Jason, if not me, I'll be here with you next week, and we'll discuss what's ahead with that Four Nations tournament.
No, for sure. Always enjoyable speaking with you. I hope the next time, though, it is a prospect pipeline.
Yes.
Just for Jason. Looking forward to him getting back. But his prognosis is good, and obviously, we're all behind Jason on the way here.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, on this episode of Flyers Daily. We'll have a new one for you tomorrow, and we hope you'll join us then.